Humans are just bad. But that's part of the plan. I will put my spirit in you and cause you to keep my commands and decrees. Jesus said fruit is abiding. Oh no, you need to do it this way instead of that way, and you should never do this, you should do that. That's not the topic here. The topic is what has value to connect us to the Godhead rather than to our own emotions, our own comfort, our own peace. This person did this evil thing. This person did this good thing. None of that means anything really, because we don't know what their fruit is. Is their light? Is their truth? Is their potential of change? Is their love? Is that the vibe I'm getting? Is that the aura? The person of Jesus, the Prince of Peace. Please be patient with us. Please have us. Take us. Please have us. Identifying with everybody around us instead of separating. That's the unity, is we are a problem, oh Lord. We are a problem. That's unity. Not la 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 la.
Just ignore it.
Would you be interested in a part 2 of the reflection of a mighty fortress in that line, armed with cruel hate? So this is just further thoughts from hearing that song accidentally, we'll call it 3 days ago now. Armed with cruel hate. Right? So that was a description, as you recall, in Martin Luther's song about Satan, right? On earth is not his equal. He's armed with cruel hate. And that got me thinking further about this idea about what is fruit and how do you know? Because it is just written right into our DNA, our Western culture, that you look at events and you hear things. And some of us just heard a little recording thing, and it was something about, a break-in and a murder and other things like that, and reminded of the world that we live in and how painfully delicate it is. There's got to be some way to figure out, or at least have some sense or understanding of what this thing called Christianity is, because we already know for sure that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is based on behavior. It's based on, thinking we understand something, true and false, good and evil, and we know that tree leads to death. So what other tools and weapons do we have if it's not, I see something and it's bad, I see something and it's good. I hear this stuff almost every day from some form or another. Well, I know they're awesome because of, how long have you known? 2 minutes. Oh, I know I've known them for 10 years. Have you really known them? Or just a bare basic acquaintance and it's all hearsay? How many times have you heard on the news, there's some serial murderer pops out of nowhere, and they interview the next door neighbors and say, oh no, give you the shirt off their back, they're awesome. Like, well, what's wrong with this? It's that we're using the wrong tools to make our decisions about things, and it doesn't come natural to a human to, make a judgment about the good or the evil other than just skills of observation and personal experience. And they always made me laugh, so they were always kind to me, so Jeffrey Dahmer was really kind to everybody right until he wasn't, so I think it's important to have the tools available to us to judge a righteous judgment instead of the way everybody else makes it. This is a good dog. Does your dog bite? It's not my dog. It's like that's the misunderstanding that we're so prone to as humans. And Jesus said, by their fruits you shall know them. So I just thought, armed with cruel hate, one word from God shall fell him. It's like a one swing axe against a redwood tree. That's all it takes. It doesn't matter if it's a redwood tree. One single word from God is like an axe that can take down a redwood tree with one swing. That's how powerful Satan is, and that's how powerful Jesus is. He can't do anything without God's permission. Did Satan inspire David to take a census? Yes. Did God inspire David to take a census? Yes. That's nuts. Did Satan attack Job? Yes. Did God allow it? He had God's permission. So God did it. God attacked Job. You can make that case. I mean, that doesn't mean God's mean. No man should say that God tempts him. It's your own lust. God didn't make you do that. The devil made me do that. God made me do that. That's just wrong. But it is still true that nothing happens without God's permission. So we've talked about Romans 8:28 and 8:29, where everything works together for the good of God, allowing before time our circumstances to be ordered in such a way to bring us our scandal on. Yours is different than mine. Nobody's is like yours. Nobody's like mine. Nobody's like yours. We have stories, and you either grow through those stories or you don't grow through those stories. And God ordered them perfectly for all of us, who our parents were and what our siblings were like and what school was like and how many times we moved. Wham, 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 let's all feel sorry. No, God is good and does good, and everything is ordered by Him. Everything. Well, I had a especially hard thing. No, you didn't. You had the thing that was designed for you, the exact times and places where you should live, and the people you should know and meet, and exactly who your parents were or who they weren't, so that we could come closer to God. The exact times and places, like to the minute, to the second, the circumstances in Southern California on a beach, all the way from Tampa. That can't happen. But God determines the exact times and places where men should live, that we would be able to see Him, feel Him, experience Him, know Him, call on His name, and make hard choices. He doesn't, we're not riding that Segway through life, zipping around effortlessly. But God takes us through the cross. Pick up your own cross. What is your own cross? Oh, I'm going to find the hardest thing I can do and go do that. That'll be my cross. Or all my poor woe is me circumstances. Wah, 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 wah. That's my cross. No, take up your cross. Deny your very self. Come follow after me. That's a choice. That's a path that you can choose. And God makes sure that you're never tempted beyond what you can bear. And every single circumstance of yours was ordered by Him, Romans 8:29, before there was time, for your good. If you love Him and are called according to His purposes, this is going to turn out really well, and you don't have to worry about it. You can trust, you can open your hands and trust that the hardest things, the hardest conversations, or God meant this for my good. It's all right. It's okay. God is God. Nothing escapes His notice. Back to Ben Sass again, the senator from Nebraska with it? Yeah. There are no molecules that are mavericks. There are no atoms that are in rebellion against God. Every moment, He created all of this outside of time. He doesn't even see time, right? So if you understand that about God, then you're on the path to being able to understand the tree of life rather than the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Judge a righteous judgment. By their fruit you shall know them. So what's the kind of fruit you're looking for? Well, the easy answer is, the fruit of the Spirit. Well, you got to know somebody really well to see love, patience, kindness, goodness, self-control. You got to be with them. And that too is a command, as we know, Hebrews 3, 12, 13. Be with people. Be, perikaleo, be called alongside them. You got to do that, otherwise you don't even know who they are. You can't guess from afar. You see mercy instead of judgment. You see patience when patience shouldn't really be there. Like, I'm so tired of this. Well, that I'm so tired of this is dependent on time, right? This happened again. No, it didn't. This is the very first chance you, in the Spirit of God, have had a chance to see this. You just think you've seen it 100 other times. God doesn't have time. There are no time limits. I already tried that and it didn't work. I'm sorry. That's not where God lives. No wonder you couldn't find him. You're living in time and he doesn't live in time. You're keeping track and he's looking for the moment, right? So by the fruit you shall know them is, oh, he's a really nice guy. Yes, so was. All these serial murderers and, you know, everybody's always surprised. But that's where God lives. There's a different way to discern from the tree of life rather than the tree of knowledge. And in that tree of life, you will see someone that's patient when patience would have run out. Love always hopes, always trusts. Well, what's that about? God is love. It's not a self-disciplined topic. It's if I'm immersed in God, if I'm abiding in the vine, if his life and his power flow through me because I've let myself go, obeying, I'm not trying, I'm dying, right? So when I let go of me as being the central feature, the center of gravity of everything me, well, if I let go of that, then I can see the world a little differently. If I trust him, I can see the world a little differently. And so one of the ways you can call this a fruit of the Spirit, and that's singular. Fruit of the Spirit is 9 things, right? Fruit of this one fruit expresses itself 9 ways in 1,000 ways, right? That the fruit, singular, is all of this stuff because God is love. In chapter 13, 1 Corinthians, it's all of this stuff. We see in the mirror dimly. We know we don't have it all together, but we do trust him, and that's our response. And so instead of being frustrated or angry or just laughing and joking and being foolish or selfish or withdrawing or being pompous, you know, what is it instead of that? It's when I come to crisis, when I come to a test, I behold him. Is that what a person does who isn't bearing the fruit of Jesus? And the answer is no. They're going to figure it all out first. They're going to react. They're going to retaliate. They're going to have a pity party and suck their thumb. Already tried that and depress and then try to gather themselves. But the fruit of God, which is the down payment, the deposit that guarantees our inheritance, this is the covenant itself. This isn't something you try to do. Is I will give you my Spirit. I will scale my life. My Father and I have been with you. We shall be in you. I'm going to let you see me from the inside and then instead of from the outside. The Shekinah glory, or instead, this is the mystery withheld for ages and generations. Christ in you, the hope of glory. The leaning into a glory that's real time and all the time, right? And we grow into the full measure of the stature of Christ from glory to glory, back to glory. But the point is that a person whose center of gravity is in God, that has the gift of the Spirit, that has the covenant intact, is it their behavior? It can't be their behavior. John, at age 90, said, if you claim to be without sin, you're a liar and the truth isn't in you. And John says, that goes for you, Paul. That goes for you, James. That goes for you, Bartholomew. It goes for you, Apollos. Anyone who claims to be without sin is a liar and the truth isn't in him. So if you go to the tree of knowledge for validation, you end up with Jeffrey Dahmer as your best friend and you're shocked when they're serial murderers and cannibals, right? But if what instead you're looking for, this is how all men will know you're my disciples, by the love you have for each other. Okay, God is love. And love and trust, Romans 8:28 and 29, is when something just crashes my party, I say, thank you, God. I mean, it's not easy. It hurts like crazy. Let this cup pass. But I trust you, God. You are good and you do good, and I trust you. I don't have to judge other people, and I don't even have to judge myself. Paul said that. I'm not capable of even judging myself because God has got me in a work in progress. And the way I know isn't by I did this and I didn't do that. But the way I know is my gut reaction, my center of gravity to behold him. Because in him is I live and move and have my being in him. That's pretty comprehensive. I live and move and have my being in him. That's very comprehensive. That's not an afterthought that I come back to later because I'm supposed to, because I'm a Christian. All right, I forgive you. No, the gut reaction is, I'm a sinner saved by grace. I want them to love the truth. I want them to love the light because that's a mark of their life with God. If they don't do that, there's a problem. But if they'll bow their knee, if they'll turn and behold him, we're good. Because their sins are as far as the east are from the west, and we got a lot of work to do together. However, I'm not going to judge you because then you'd be judged in the measure that you judge. Oh, I don't look. Well, good. That's how God is towards you too, and probably other people as well. But we, as Adib said, stink. Humans are just bad. But that's part of the plan. Is the nature of the new covenant is I will put my spirit in you and cause you to keep my commands and decrees from glory to glory as we behold him. Right? So the knee-jerk reaction isn't be angry and then try to fix it later with, oh, Christians aren't supposed to act like that, are they? It's not withdrawing, it's not retaliating, it's not moping, whining, complaining. If God's Spirit lives in me, I feel the pressure. God, let this cup pass. Who said that? Jesus himself. He wasn't trying to be a hero. He became a man like us. Right? He was tempted in all ways we were. He didn't want to go through this either. He sweat blood. He scorned the shame. He for the joy set before him, he despised what was happening and the shame of it all, as well as the physical pain, which was only a small part of it. Right? But he looked towards God, his Father, and that was what meant everything to him, was his Father. So that's a mark of him living inside of us, right? As we behold him, doesn't mean we won't make 1,000 mistakes. That's not the topic here. If you claim to be without mistakes, sins, missing the mark, hamartia, if you claim everything's okay, then you're a liar and the truth isn't in you. You don't even know what you're talking about. The people who refuse to be, we'll say introspective, but that can be abused in the psychological world. Like, oh, I'm introspective, I'm so guilty, I'm so ashamed, and yeah, okay, whatever. But introspective means that I don't judge others any differently than I judge myself. I view them with the same sensitivity that I need God to show to me. The people who don't do that, those are the people that's part of the fruit topic. You shall know them by their fruit. Jesus didn't say you might be able to hazard a guess if you looking at their fruit. You might be able to guess based on their fruit. That's not what he said. He said you shall know them by their fruit. So our problem is we don't define fruit properly. Because there's a whole lot of people we know nothing about. And Jesus said you can know. You can know. How? Because they're really good. Wrong tree. That's the wrong tree. How can you know then? Because they're eating from the tree of life and you see something different. And they don't even have to say very much. They can say a lot, they can say a little. They can be well behaved or poorly behaved. But their center of gravity is, oh, Father, without any help from you, rebuking them or shunning them or whatever. That's the nature of the new covenant, right? So fruit is this thing that is defined only on the Zoe axis, only at the tree of life. That's the only fruit that matters. Behavior is not our topic here. You will judge an unrighteous judgment and you'll miss things and call something good, and on that day you and they will both surely die. You'll call something bad, and on that day you shall both surely die. That's what the wrong tree does. This is good, this is evil. I want to be a God knowing good and evil. I want to be in control of what I think I know about this and what I'm sure of about that. And I run from the things that I don't like, and I run towards the things that make me comfortable. And guess what? That's not the tree of life. The tree of life is in a whole different dimension. And so what you're watching for instead of behavior, and of course behavior as we behold him will improve. All right, that's not justification of evil behavior. But I will say this, that the snapshot is different than the video. And we mostly only have snapshots, and being called alongside one another daily, Hebrews 3, is a command. Why is that? It's so that we can judge a righteous judgment. We can help each other, and we can find out who loves the light and who hates the light. And you can't do that in a meeting or a ceremony or a ritual or a sacrament. You know, responsive reading doesn't tell you anything about the tree of life versus tree. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's useless. All right? Read my lips. It's useless because the things that matter most on this planet are not my comfort by humming and meditating and, you know, sitting and gazing and, you know, smelling the incense and being humbled at the magic water and the ritual and all that. Oh, that feels good, but there's no value in it. It doesn't have any ability to curb sensual indulgence. That's what Paul wrote to the Colossians. It doesn't change anything. It has no value. So, oh no, you need to do it this way instead of that way, and you should never do this, you should do that. That's not the topic here. The topic is what has value to connect us to the Godhead rather than to our own emotions, our own comfort, our own peace. Oh, you know, well, Zen, and there's a lot of ways to get there. Hypnosis, you know, there's a lot of ways to get to a fake peace, a peace where there is no peace. The lack of confrontation is not peace. The presence of God is peace, which you can have in a scenario that you're about to get boiled in oil, or even 1,000 times harder, your children are, or your parents are, or your brothers and sisters are. It's 1,000 times harder. That happens in all the movies, right? Oh, I'm going to kill you. You can't scare me. You can't make me talk. All right, then I'll kill your wife. Uh-oh. Right? So that's what Satan does. He tries to find ways to destroy us through our emotions, and calming our emotions or creating a new emotion, whether it's fear or pleasure or I just want to zone out. You know, God's never going to be there because that's about mammal flesh. That's about synchronizing our brain waves with the ocean sounds that, you know, the green noise and the white noise and the blue noise and the polka dot noise. Trying to, you know, zone out makes us feel slightly better. That's why people do drugs and alcohol and all these other things, is they're trying to escape the reality that does not include Jesus. And so, if you're going to judge a righteous judgment and walk through this earth and be useful to God, you're going to have to define fruit properly. By their fruit you shall know them. You know, it's not wicked versus good. It's not, you know, nice versus mean. Those things are irrelevant, because as you grow from glory to glory and have the Spirit in you, you're going to go through some of that stuff, and you're going to grow from glory to glory and put those things aside if you behold Him. That is the measurement. It's not the snapshot. It's, in some ways, it's not even the video because we don't have full access to the video of their life. But there is a way you can sense when something comes up, do they turn to Jesus immediately, put it in His hands, not, well, I'm not going to listen to you, la, 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 I know who I am in Christ, la, 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 la. That's not turning to Jesus. That's a doctrine. That's a hiding place. But to say, God, into your hands I commit my spirit. Whatever happens, happens. It's your best plan. It's not the plan I would have chosen. Let this cup pass. But your will, not mine, be done. That's a scary place, but with God's Spirit living inside of you, aren't you going to do what Jesus did? Let this cup pass, no problem. Scorning the shame, hating the shame. But for the joy set before us and the trust of God, into your hands I commit my spirit. Whatever you want, not my will, but yours be done. So the test of fruit is not the snapshots along the way. We put ourselves in a place where we can see, experience, and help with the videos. That's called a kingdom of praise. That's a different topic in a way because you don't have access to everybody. That's part of what we do, but the more important thing is judging an unrighteous judgment. You're saying, oh, this person is so cool, it made me feel so good right away. So Satan can do that. Jesus, we read that a couple nights ago. Jesus said, okay, I get it. You can make people feel good, Satan, but that's not the topic. Worship God. That's it. My life belongs to my Father. That's it. Yeah, I know you can make people feel good. So what? In this present age, these kingdoms belong to you, and you can give them to whoever you want. Good for you, Lucifer. My Father let you do that. So you're not anybody. That's his choice, not yours. As soon as he snaps his fingers, you're gone. One word shall fell him. But nevertheless, my answer today is just simply this. I'm going to worship God. I'm going to trust him. My life, my future, my past, everything. And notice I said my future and my past. Because we can drill down and be affected by so many things from our childhood and not even know it till 20 years later. But at some point, our past goes on the altar, our present goes on the altar, our future goes on the altar, our relationships. I give my head to heaven, Keith Green, and it's just the process of laying everything that comes up new in front of us. That process is the fruit, right? That process is the fruit. Do they do that or do they not do that? Because a video doesn't mean much. The snapshot means zero. You have no idea why that child acted that way right now. The parents know a little bit better. I'm not necessarily incompetent. I just happen to know they've been sick the last 3 days. So before you judge me for being incompetent as a parent, keep in mind that I've got the video and you've only got the snapshot. I'm all ears, but you better have enough humility to realize you're not the judge here. And I can learn from even, anybody about anything, but you haven't seen the video. You might agree with me or you might not if you saw the video I saw, and that's okay too. But at least have the humility to say, you don't know that they've been sick for the last 3 days. I still might have done the wrong thing. Too much compassion, which you could label compromise. That could be true. But, the humility to say we don't know everything is a very, very important part. So, this person did this evil thing. This person did this good thing. None of that means anything really because we don't know what their fruit is. Jesus said fruit is abiding, right? If you abide in me and I abide in you, you will bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be connected to me, showing yourselves to be Christians. The disciples were called Christians 10 years later at Antioch, right? 7 years, whatever the magic number is. But so showing yourselves to be connected to me, you will bear much fruit. Okay, so what is that fruit? Because by the fruit you shall know them. Well, being connected to him is a very fundamental part of bearing that fruit that we can see. So beholding him, trusting him under circumstances we don't understand. Understanding is the wrong tree. Oh, I don't really understand. So what? Who cares? You're not God. Get it through your head. You're not God. You don't have to understand. God doesn't have to prove anything to you. You're not God. So your little tiny 3 pounds of goo does not get to be God today. So back off. What you want to know is their light? Is there truth? Is there potential of change? Is there love? Is there mercy? Is there kindness? Is there patience? Is that the vibe I'm getting? Is that the aura that the person of Jesus, the Prince of Peace, the wonderful counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, is that the vibe I'm getting from this circumstance and this very deadly situation that they're in? Am I getting that vibe? By their fruit you should know them. All right, so the fruit is the product of the power of roots, the power of food that it's eating, right? The power of soaking in the sun and photosynthesis, the miracle of photosynthesis. And then the miracle of a leaf and then a blossom and then fruit. That's all power that comes from inexplicably nowhere. Dirt turned into that. Sunlight turned into that. I'm sorry, that is a miracle. And I'm not sorry. I shouldn't have said that. That's an expression. So if that's the fruit we're looking for, it's something that can't be explained because they're turning to the sun, because they're soaking up the rain, because somebody's helping them pull the weeds. Plants don't pull their own weeds very well. We need each other, right? So if that's where the fruit comes from, is turning to the sun, soaking in the rain, the wind blowing through our leaves in existence, and maybe a little fertilization from the plants around us and the bumblebees, but the ecosystem of life that can't be contained in a bottle. That ends up bearing fruit that lasts, much fruit that lasts, right? 100, 30, 60, 100. That's God's intention for us. That's young men, 30, 60, and 100, right? So if you try to look at, if you go back to the koine Greek word, dead language, I got it, but the word fruit, if you go back and look at it, Aristotle used the same word, Josephus used the same word. It was in the papyri, the correspondence between people. It was in the court records in the era of Koine Greek, and it generally meant ROI. It generally meant return on investment. It wasn't like, that's a nice person, that's the fruit of the Spirit, they seem nice to me. It's what does it produce? If you look around and say, well, that sounds right, or that, that's convincing, it better not be convincing to a Christian, because we're looking for the down payment that is proof of the Spirit of God. We're not looking for behavior. You can have bad behavior and have Jesus living in you. You can have good behavior and Jesus not living in you. That's the wrong tree. So what is the fruit? What's the product? What's the return? What happens as a result of being connected to the vine? That's what we're looking for when Jesus said, by their fruit you can know them. It's not our human inclination, because we listen to a voicemail message that shouldn't even be on our phone from something that's probably a pocket dial, and it's frightening what can be in this present age. And that probably all their neighbors thought they're great until they read about it in the newspaper and say, whoops, missed that one, didn't I? It's because they weren't judging a righteous judgment. It wasn't the right way to look at it. So fruit is not by, oh, this person's good, this person's bad, because it can be exactly opposite of what you think it is. But what you're looking for, what's their center of gravity? Do they behold Him? When things go terribly wrong, do they turn to Him? Do you see the fruit of life, the fruit of joy and peace and kindness and gentleness, self-control? Do you see the fruit, not the fruits? The fruit of God is the person of Jesus Christ. Is that what you see? Into your hands I commit my spirit. I scorn the shame. I hate it. Let this cup pass. But God, I'm in your hands. That's not a doctrine. That's a center of gravity if He lives in you. And it's a doctrine or a concept that somebody has to remind you of if He doesn't live in you. Again, there's a graduated scale of growth, but those who love the light will be changed. They'll lean into it. You'll see the humility. You'll see the costly patience. You'll see the desire to run into the light instead of run away from the light and defend ourselves. So that doesn't mean everything anybody ever says is right. I know of a scenario in some southern city where the whole idea was, I say something really hard to you, and you're supposed to cry. And if you cry, then we can have a close relationship. And the person said in response, the one with the polka dots on her knee, the person said in response, but I didn't do what you said. So I'm open, but I'm not ready to cry yet, because I don't really think that's what happened. And I'm not really ready to bow down and have a relationship because you accused me of something so that we could have a relationship and try to make me cry. I don't know where you got all these ideas, because that's not Jesus. So there's plenty of substitutes or counterfeits. And I think if you're going to really be capable of knowing them by their fruit, it's just absolutely essential that we're looking for something that comes up from the power of the soil, the power of the nutrients, the power of photosynthesis, the miracle of, changing, radio frequencies into food, into leaves, into flowers, into fruit, a tomato, an apple. And how's that possible? Well, these are all visual aids for us, right? God created that whole ecosystem so that we can learn from it. I've written these things for your learning. These things happened for your learning. The whole Old Testament is basically a parable that we can extract. And Jesus told parable of the pearl merchant. There wasn't any pearl merchant sitting there, but everybody knew what a pearl merchant was, or what a farmer working in a field was. And so there was the ability to take something tangible in their experience and turn it into a deeper truth, right? The deep calls to the deep. So that's what the whole Old Testament is, according to the Hebrews writer, who probably Apollos, I can say with a fair amount of certainty it couldn't be Paul. So stop thinking that. And I can tell you why, but this is not the time for that. Right? See, there's all kinds of learning going on around here. So the point is that the whole Old Testament, according to the Hebrews writer, was for our learning. These things happened for our learning, right? And so people will say, "Oh, God's mean." Well, that's not a story about God being mean. We see who God is through Jesus Christ. That's a story of authority. That's a story of man's sin. That's a story of how God views the molecular world. And what does a tree mean to him? What does a sparrow mean to him? They come and they go. There's a cycle of life, and they turn into fertilizer in the ecosystem of planet Earth. And, a lot of things going on, but they're for our learning. God isn't mean because a village got wiped out in the Old Testament. We know that sin destroys lives, and God's righteousness has to make decisions about those who are willing rebels that are not washed in the blood of the Son. This is for our learning. So it's not a story about God being mean. It's a story about how God's righteous judgment works, and that Jesus came to show the exact representation of God. Was he mean? So we know God wasn't mean. So what's the rest of it? It's a parable. I know there were real people in it, but nevertheless, it was for our learning. That's why it all happened the way it did and was recorded the way it was. So circling back around to this idea of fruit, if you judge fruit improperly from the wrong tree, ironically, there was the wrong kind of fruit on that tree, and they wanted to eat it, right? And it's almost contagious. It's almost irresistible. The story of the tragic story of this and the terrible evil story of that I can hardly wait to hear what happened next. The ability to just suck up gossip and suck up slander, and he's armed with cruel hate. Do you get that now? Yeah, that's his purpose. That's not the fruit of Jesus. Well, but is it true or is it not true? I don't know. Armed with cruel hate? Yeah, that's for sure. Right? What is the fruit? If we've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, let's look for what fruit is. Fruit is abiding. Fruit is looking, beholding. Fruit is allowing the Spirit to transfigure us, transform us from one degree of glory to another as we behold him by the Lord who is the Spirit, lest any man boast. God does that. Your trying doesn't matter. So what you're watching for with fruit is, are they armed with cruel hate? Okay. Or do they turn to God in crisis? Or do they retaliate? Do they sulk? Do they get angry? Do they accuse? Do they counterattack? What do they do? Because the fruit of God living inside is very, very different than the fruit of men living inside, and we want to judge it by the wrong tree. We know better than to want to eat from the tree of knowledge But that's not what we're talking about right now. Now, right at this moment in time, we're applying it to what are you looking for in yourself as well as in others, to know what fruit is. Because it's still so easy to want to, if it bleeds, it leads. I grew up in newspaper offices my whole childhood, and, that's all I heard about were the headlines and the news and and this story's breaking and stop the presses. And, I grew up in that world. And, if it bleeds, it leads. The worse it is, the easier it is for a human to be attracted to it, And so Satan knows that, right? He's armed with cruel hate. He wants to devastate us. He wants to harm us. Some of the folks have been recently discussing this idea of unity, right? He called for us to be one, John 17. He wants us to be one. What is that unity based on? It better be based on the tree of life, because otherwise it's a compromise. That's not unity at all. That's a counterfeit of unity, right? Peace, peace where there isn't. This person is at enmity with God, but they'll be my friend, and we'll call that unity. How do we know they're at enmity with God? Because they love the world. Sorry, you don't get a pass on loving the world. That makes you God's enemy. So now you're my brother because you're God's enemy, and I'm calling that unity. Wrong. So we're in this sort of quagmire. You want to have John 17 unity? Fine. But it better be based on the tree of life. It better be based on, I put my spirit in you. My Father and I are living in this one no matter what their behavior is. My Father is not living in that one, no matter, as far as I can tell, to be determined. But I sure don't have any confidence in that, because they don't react with kindness. They don't react with humility. It feels false to me. It feels, styrofoam. They don't respond. They catch themselves because they know they shouldn't be this or they should be that, or, but you can kind of tell in, the eye is the lamp of the body, that there's not that humility that says, I just love and trust God. This is hard. Let this cup pass. Please let this cup pass. But like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but if not, I still trust you. Job, though you slay me, I will still trust you. Right? That's the reaction of a man after God's own heart. That's the reaction of the most righteous man on earth. Job, the whole conversation with Job and God and Lucifer is, though he slay me, I'll still trust him. I don't have to understand. Oh, explain it to me, and then I'll bend down and understand it. If I understand it, I'll agree. That's not how it works. If his life is in it, then I will agree. The rest is scandalon. It'll work together for good. But as long as we're judging an unrighteous judgment, which is based on performance, based on skin color, based on age, or their vocabulary or their manner or their aroma, street person, or somebody in some other country, as long as we're repulsed by anything after the flesh, rather than seeing no man after the flesh, only after the Spirit, as long as we're repulsed by anything of this present age, we are making a mistake, and there will be consequences by judging an unrighteous judgment. It will not create the unity that we had hoped to build. That unity that is now that's sort of the watchword of the Gen Z and a lot of movements is, I know, let's just all be friends. Let's just all ignore all these things. Well, there's things that we can't ignore. We can't ignore a false gospel. Paul said, curse on you if you present a way to come to the Father that's not by the blood of Jesus in faith and abandonment in that. That is a false gospel. Anathema, curses on anyone who brings a false. And we're going to make peace with that. I'm sorry, we don't have the right to. Jesus didn't make peace with the buyers and sellers in the temple that were selling God's word, if you will. Right? He didn't make peace with that. He made a whip for that. Right? So, the way to look at life is through the tree of life and through the Spirit of God. And that doesn't have to do with the human mind and the stuff that we see and hear that makes us feel good or makes us feel bad. That is not Christianity. So that was part 2 of A mighty fortress is our God, and that verse that just hit me between the eyes of, armed with cruel hate. That is not the fruit of God, right? Yeah, but they're right. They can't be right. They're armed with cruel hate. They don't turn to God when something doesn't go their way. They turn to retaliation, or they turn to sulking and fear and gossip, and that is the righteous judgment is through the Spirit of God. If they abide in me and I abide in them, this is how men will know that you're my followers, by the love that you have that comes from abiding in Him. And that abiding is a real-time adventure, a real-time construct of my reason for living and everything that happens to me. I might have a slight knock on the head distraction, but my center of gravity is always coming back to I belong to Him. Though He slay me, I'll still trust Him. If He wants to incite me to take a census, which is really Lucifer inciting me to take a census, and then I'm punished, okay. I'm His. He can do with me whatever He wants, a vessel for noble use or not. But I belong to Him. He can do with me whatever He pleases. That's the center of gravity. That is the kind of fruit that humans just don't get on their own. That's tree of knowledge is, again, I only believe in the tree of life. And, well, yeah, prove it when there's a crisis. Prove it when you get a voicemail message and you do know who's on the call, or whatever. I'm just saying the world is messed up and painful and confusing. And Jesus said, yeah, but I'm going to give you a way through this. This is an evil age. He was very clear about that. A wicked and adulterous generation. That was then. It's 1,000 times worse now. I think he would agree. I think he would agree that this is 1,000 times worse than when he said that. Human nature is the same, but the ways of living out that evil, it's in your phone, it's everywhere. So, the process of turning towards Him, He said you can know. In a very cloudy, foggy, painful, confusing, chaotic, loud, static, you can find the signal in the midst of all the noise if you're looking for the right thing. Otherwise, if you have to understand, if you have to feel a certain way, if you have to have a fake unity because you just don't want to deal with biology, or you don't want to deal with losing your job, or you don't want to deal with a neighbor not liking you, or you don't want to deal with, not pampering a child that actually needs a little leadership instead of pampering. I just don't want to deal with it. If you're going to go that direction and let the noise dominate your life, you'll never have the slightest idea what it means. By their fruit you shall know them. Because the signal is the life of Jesus. Not just the externals of Jesus that you think you see or you think you know about someone or about yourself. It's what happens when the scandalon reveals to us and in us and through us exactly what this tree of life was meant to portray, and that is life of heaven on earth. A heaven life. This is how men will know. A heaven life on earth that just can't happen on its own. You can try, you're going to fail. Dying is the only way to get there. So, if Martin Luther just could rhyme German a little better and write 8,000 more verses, that's probably what he would have said. Just guessing.
Hey, Mike, can I ask a question? By their fruit you will know them. More times than not, if someone were to ask me that question, I would think of behavior. I would think of doctrine.
So I brought this up, yeah.
And, like you have coffee with somebody and are they a believer? Yeah,
They say they are.
Yeah, so obviously, and you don't really know them, You know, you might see them once a month or once a week, but you don't know their life. And you're right. I mean, I've fooled people, you know, before. But I guess my question is, when you're meeting with people as we go along through our life, and you're sharing with them the gospel, is by their fruit you will know them. Is that a discernment? Is that walking by the Spirit and not walking by the intellect? I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, when you try to understand whether they have the Spirit of God within them, but yet you don't walk with them, but they're giving you, you know, maybe there's something you say that's a scandal to them, and they react not as a pushback, but, you know, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'll think about that. Pray about that, and all that. And then, so, is it a discernment of the Spirit that lives within us?
That's giving yourself too much credit, or me giving myself too much credit. The point is, no, you cannot discern that on the spot.
Well, and then my second question is that when you bring the body of Christ in, where it's not a Lone Ranger thing. It's, you know, hey, Johnny, I want you to meet this person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might discern some. Is that where you bring the church in? And
well, you know, and again, someone listening to this will say, bring the church in, and they're thinking of a building on Sunday. But if you're thinking community, which is the right translation of ecclesia, you might. It's a tool that you have. The pillar and foundation of truth is the ecclesia. The manifold wisdom of God, which is what we're looking for in your scenario, is made known even to the principalities and powers, let alone to the Starbucks guy, through the ecclesia, through the community, through the gifts. You know, the teacher, the mercy, the discernment, the, you know, miracles. Yeah, so it's all part of that for sure. It's not an automatic, that's a system, right? That's being dependent on a gimmick. But it is a possible tool in the tool belt. Every screw doesn't need a hammer, might need a screwdriver. So we don't really make any assumptions about that. That's just more religion. But I would say, I mean, you said you're discerning whether they're not a Christian, but you also said, I'm sharing the gospel with them. So you're talking about you're sharing the gospel of the kingdom instead of the gospel of the blood of Jesus, because they say they already got that one, right? Are you talking about people who claim to be Christian or no? Either one?
well, they typically claim to be.
They're American, they do.
Yeah.
You probably haven't been at a Starbucks in Nigeria in a while. But they also claim to be Christian, most of them.
I understand.
So, yeah, all right, so here's what I say. We don't know. If God allows us to have a thread to pull on, we might decide to pull on it then, or patiently pull on it later to see if the whole sweater unravels, or if it just pulls off in your hand, because it was never anything. It was just, you know, stray thread. It wasn't even attached to the sweater. It was just baggage. It wasn't even real. So the humility to say, I don't know, but I'm also not going to be naive and say, oh, they're great people. They say they're Christian. I'm sure they are because they do good works. Well,
And
I'm
I
not
think
naive.
I've done that more than the form.
And other people do the other more. They're not one of us. Curse them like the fig tree.
Yeah.
They're not one of us, and we're the only ones that matter. Well, Jesus had that same problem, right, with the disciples. It went both ways. There's examples of him saying if they're not for us, they're against us. And if they're not against us, then they're for us. He said both. And you're describing Starbucks.
Right.
Because we don't know. They say they're for us. Great. They say, oh, hey, man, brother, you're saying all the right things. You still don't know anything about them. And if they say, oh, I hate every word that's coming out of your mouth, you still don't know anything about them. Don't be defensive. Be patient. Are you sure? Give it some more thought and prayer before you come down so hard. I know it's unfamiliar to you, but If you go to Malawi, you have to eat green chicken. That too is unfamiliar to you, but that doesn't mean you can't get by. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean you won't be hungry if you don't eat it, because that's all you got.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that's not what God's doing today. Take, kill, and eat was a moment in time when God was doing something different. So I understand, and I am even compassionate, that this isn't what Grandma told you. This isn't what Auntie told you. This is not what your pastor, who should not have a title because it's forbidden him by Jesus himself, but you're used to it. And you don't want to discredit your grandma, who called him Pastor Billy Bob. And so you're judging everybody else by refusing to obey the command of calling somebody by title: Reverend, Pastor, Father, Master Leader, Teacher, Brother. You know, that's the reason they keep doing it is A, they're afraid, and they feel like they need somebody to be an intermediary with them rather than Jesus, which Jesus said he was the only one. God said Jesus is the only one. But people feel like they've been led to believe they need an extra mediator. And one more layer on the ice cream cake. And they don't, but they're afraid. So that's one reason. And also they don't want to discredit Grandma, because Grandma would have told me if this was a problem. Well, the Bible tells you this. Jesus himself told, yeah, but Grandma didn't. And I don't want Grandma to get in trouble, even though she's been dead for 15 years. So I'm not going to believe that. La, 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 la. All right, so you can't assume that they won't pass the scandal on, the trap, just because they have an initial bad response. I can tell you 10 examples in the past 2 or 3 years that they came through with flying colors after an initially bad response. And I was persistent and loving and kind and patient as best I knew how to be. And it just took them a minute to catch their breath. That doesn't make them a worse person. Others say, oh yeah, amen, brother. And they go and do something else. Jesus told that parable too, right? Which one's better? The one that beats his chest and says, oh, you know, like, God have mercy on me. And the other one says, yeah, I got this. The person that's confident that they don't need a doctor is the one that needs the doctor the most. And they don't even know it. So I would say you can watch for threads to pull that might unleash a scandal, but you don't. It's not like you're going to hit them with a hammer. That's merciless, because you can't possibly know that soon unless they just say, I hate Jesus. All right, that's a problem. But that's not what most people say, especially not in America. And even if they say that, I have encountered such things at Harvard where I want nothing to do with this. That's so much gobbledygook. That's just superstition. I'm not sure he even existed. Well, I can go to the proof that he existed part and solve that, but that doesn't change their heart, because the whole problem was a heart problem, not a cosmology problem or a evidence of God problem or a Ken Ham problem, or Lee Strobel problem or a Josh McDowell problem. Look, that's not the problem. The problem is I don't want a king over me. And I use these other things as excuses. So you can't know that because they've been so inundated with false information and a false God and false religion and make-believe stuff that it would be rare to find something that's real. Somebody that rolls over and plays dead for you, don't trust it. Somebody that fights back, don't trust it. Because the real issue is the scandalon. You pull the thread and you help them see that there's a path towards Jesus that loves the light and truth, and you're not the source of that. God is. That takes a bit of humility. So yeah, 1,000 situations, 1,000 from atheists to Buddhists to Hindus to Catholics to Baptists to charismatics. It's really all kind of the same deal, because it's Jesus they have to see, and they've not been probably given a proper perspective of Jesus, regardless of which of those categories they're in. So, it's humility and patience on our part, and then finding out what we need to learn from it too, since we're not the author of truth, Jesus is. So I won't say it's complicated. It's actually more simple than trying to figure it out. It's just climb on the altar with them, see what happens.
Thanks, that helps.
I doubt it, but I mean, I want it to help, but I'm just saying I don't trust that. You know, it's a digestion problem for all of us. That until you eat the sandwich, you eat the meat, and it becomes part of us at some later point in time. But if we tried to answer it, like if somebody asked you that question right now, you step out on the porch and a total stranger came up and say, what would you say if? You probably have a hard time finding words for it. You try to remember what was said, but you haven't applied it. You haven't carried the cross of it yet. You haven't digested the food yet. It's not become, I mean, what happened to the hamburger from yesterday? Will you find it in your stomach? Probably not. It's part of you now. And that's the place where it matters, is that. So when I say I doubt it necessarily accomplishing, it's just words.
Yeah.
It takes time, which we got to give them too.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, right?
Somebody sent on a song today. Maybe let Christ be all. You listen to it, try to sing with it.
Day of our lives, offer our bodies as a living sacrifice, and then you'll know the good, perfect, pleasing will of God. It's your spiritual worship. It's how you worship. It's not a song. It could be a song, but that's not our topic here. You can sing all day long and it doesn't mean a thing, or you can sing under your breath or in your heart, and it means everything to God. There was silence in heaven listening to that song. But the real topic is, if you offer your body as a living sacrifice, heart, soul, mind, and strength, then you'll know the good, perfect, and pleasing will of God. That's the continuation. There's no little numbers till the 1700s. There's no chapters in books, till a few hundred years before that. So this is all just, and even punctuation marks and capitalization in the Greek is not anything like it is in English. So don't try to pick a verse out and leave the next one out, because there weren't verses back then. This was just the breath of God in the context of the flow, and the good, perfect, and pleasing will of God is the overflow, not a separate verse. There were no numbers. It's not a separate verse. The good, perfect, and pleasing will of God, to encounter God's voice, God's heart, God's mind. And we have the mind of Christ. That's what Paul said. What does that mean? That means he offered his body as a living sacrifice. Look how that turned out, says the Lord, says Paul. You can go there too. You're children. I want you to come where I've been. You don't even realize what you're missing. You're still children. Good for you. The good news of Jesus Christ, the blood of Jesus. Now you're babies. I write to you children. I write to you fathers, take some responsibility for helping others. I write to you young men, because the good news of the kingdom, on earth as it is in heaven, one single word shall fell him, this criminal, this mastermind evil on earth. He has no equal. He is a nasty, evil, disgusting, vile, filthy. You hear that? Yeah. We're not talking about him. He's paying attention. All right? And his craft is wily and shrewd, and he is a vile, foul, liar, murderer, and he's vicious. But one single word shall fell him, like a redwood tree with one swing. You got to know that about him, about God and about his word, and that he isn't who he says he is. He's a toothless dragon. Yeah, show me your gums, dude. It's fear that he wins with. It's fear. It's deceit. It's lies. So, to back up to, by their fruit you shall know them. Understand your world through the tree of life. Not just your own personal decisions. Oh, I'm afraid, this is good, this is evil. Those are your decisions. Right? Got it? We've talked a lot about that. But I'm asking you to go to the next level if you want to be a young man who's overcome the evil and judge a righteous judgment. And that happens at Starbucks, and that happens in the neighborhood, that happens in a line at a winter jam, that happens, with the tattoos and the nose rings, or with the crotchety old men that have just been so beat up their whole life that they seem like they're haters, but maybe they're not. So the point is, to judge a righteous judgment is not only make your own decisions through the tree of life rather than the tree of knowledge, but to actually be able to take the time and the love to help an atheist that's an atheist because they've been betrayed. Man, if we don't judge a righteous judgment with the patience and the wisdom of Jesus, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. No, you don't get a break. You get a break. I'm not ignoring it. You don't get a break. You get a break. Now you decide. You didn't have a chance before. Now you do. They all set their stones down and walked away. Don't you forget it. Now what are you going to do about it in your own heart, in the rest of your life? Go and sin no more. You don't get a break, you get a break. That's the big distinction. The unity movement. Oh, y'all get a break. Doesn't matter what you believe, doesn't matter what you do. We got to have unity. You don't get a break for blasphemy of a false gospel and loving the world, which makes you God's enemy. Oh, you get a break from being God's enemy. No, you don't. Go and sin no more. That's your opportunity, because you didn't have a chance before, whether it's an atheist at Harvard or a beer guzzler at Duke or some Asheville, North Carolina, or California, messed up person. Why? Why are they that way? Why? How did it get this way? An absentee father, an abusive parent, peer pressure at school. How did it get that way? Why is everybody so comfortable with all sorts of stuff now they weren't comfortable with before? It's because culture caught them and wrapped them up, and since they didn't have a Jesus to call on, they just went with the flow. Just, survival skill, right? If you're in the woods, you need a pocket knife, and you need flint, you need something. You need something to cover you. If you're in the jungle, if you're in the woods, you need something to help you with the survival skill. That's what culture is. Define culture. Look it up in the dictionary, and you ought to find a pocket knife as a picture. Because culture is nothing more than how do I survive in this present age. And so what you see, the good and evil tree, is useless. Because, they got a pocket knife, they're a bad person, nose ring, tattoo, blue hair, or beer drinker, or angry, or bitter. It's all useless. This is a survival skill in this present age. So now offer them a lifeline. offer them hope, and don't expect when you throw them the ring of, for survival, the orange
Lifesaver.
life, what is it?
Is it a lifesaver?
Life preserver.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. You throw it to them and you hit them in the nose. They might be mad at first, but they'll thank you later because you just saved their life. So you got to have this perspective that this planet is messed up, and if you resort to the tree of good and evil, not only for your decisions, you're dead even while you live, but if you do it for how you judge others, because his craft is, our enemy is unlike anything that you will ever even imagine. And the principalities and powers, he owns this world. We read about that a couple nights ago. He owns this world. People don't realize that. They think they have decisions to make about good and evil, and they're going to choose the good ones so they can feel good. And when they go to heaven, they can say, I was basically a good person. I was better than so-and-so, and that has nothing to do with anything. So the tree of life has got to be our anchor. And if it's our anchor for ourselves, which allows us without guilt and without fear to go forward in spite of our mistakes, in spite of our flaws, our past is redeemed, our present is redeemed by the blood, and our future is redeemed by the blood and the Spirit. If that's true for how we have to view ourselves, so we're not walking zombies and we resort to religion as a survival tactic, hypnosis of ritual or attendance or whatever, like one of those podcasters guys said, the Whisper Game, when he read that in the book, he said, I realized that I could do church, and I've said this before, that I could do church in my sleep. He'd been a pastor for 40 years, and he said, and I've said it boastfully, I could do church in my sleep. And he said this, recorded, broadcast, and he said, I read that Whisper Game chapter, and I said, I don't think that's a good thing anymore, that I could do this in my sleep. Because if it's really scandalon, if it's really God, a living God, then it's going to breathe and move and challenge and test. And if I could do it in my sleep, God must not be living. Ding, ding, ding. Right? So that's, if we're going to judge, so how would you have judged him last year? When he could do church in his sleep and was proud of it. I would suggest that if we're going to be of any use to this God, who's like the wind, then we got to judge other people as if we understand that they're victims, that the world has crushed them, and they're bitter because of, they didn't get the pot roast and somebody said something mean to them, or they're bored because they're sick of opening song, or they're angry because their parents abused them, or they're just blending into the culture because it's a safe place for them, so I better be trans, I guess, because at least I'll be popular instead of rejected. I'm cool now, so I'll ruin everything, biologically speaking, so that if somebody will accept me for a minute, I'll take that gamble because I'm 14 and I don't know what the future holds. Got to take that gamble. I got to survive now, so maybe I'll survive later. So anyway, that's the world, and if you see the whole world through the tree of life, then you're going to be more patient than Starbucks and more wise, not gullible, not judgmental, but you're going to see that the world is messed up, and the atheist, the Muslim, the Hindu, the churchgoer, the PK, the pastor, it's the stone the builders built was rejected. The capstone was rejected by the builders, right? So, meaning that Jesus actually did single out the people that were going to be the biggest problem. The stone the builders rejected has become the capstone. It's the builders. Jesus singled those out, not race, creed, color, language, education, intelligence, age, none of that. Tattoos, blue hair. It's the builders Jesus singled out as being potentially the biggest problem. But some of them are there sincerely too, right? Some of them aren't ambitious. If they hang around long enough, they'll probably be seduced by the power of being able to get inside somebody's head, get in and take their money and control them through guilt and fear and inspirational talks, and eventually they could be seduced by it even if they started sincere, because there's no such thing as clergy in the New Testament. Jesus forbid it. The Nicolaitans, that's a problem. Conquering the people is a problem. It's a doctrine and it's a practice, and Jesus condemned conquering the people, conquering the laity, the Nicolaitans, right? So it's a problem. The stone the builders rejected has become the capstone, the chief cornerstone. So there is a category that has nothing to do with tattoos and nose rings that could potentially be a bigger problem, but that's not everybody, right? Some of us did it for a while and realized that it wasn't bearing fruit. I gave everything to do that because I thought that was the path. I gave up everything. 70% pay cut, titles, my whole future, my 2 young children's future. I gave it all up and found out, so somebody could have judged me, right? Pastor so-and-so, whatever. I always hated titles. I wouldn't visit the sick and afflicted the world over and pray prayers, guide garden directions. I wouldn't do that because that's not Jesus. It stinks. It's rank. It's awful. I'm not going to shake everybody out. I'm not going to pray anybody into the meeting and pray anybody out of the meeting. Like, say a little prayer for me. I'm not doing any of that stuff. That's not the Jesus I gave my life for. So I'm not doing that. So if somebody judged me at that moment in time, well, I'm a work in progress. I didn't know. I was a newborn Christian myself. The pastor. Yeah, well, whatever. But I wanted to change. And 18 months later, I actually gave up what I'd already given up my whole life for, burning my resume in a Weber grill and all that stuff. I thought, this is over. I'm never going back. And God had other plans, but I did what I had to do, whether it's fasting for 38 and a half days or story behind that. It could have been 40 easily, but I didn't want to be in the same breath as the guys who did it for 40. So I was there, no food for 38 and a half days. I said, I'm embarrassed. I'm not in their class. I don't want to be mentioned in their same breath. I did this for God. I did not do this so I could say I did what some of these heroes of the faith did. So I stopped after 38 and a half days so I could never claim I did it for 40. So I'm kind of abbreviating, and I feel like I probably ought to say that. But I did that for God, not for any other purpose. Zero other purpose. And that was not very long after I gave up my big title and big money and big future in the business world, and then I did that to be a pastor, and then I gave that up, and then what did I have? I had a broom that I pushed in a factory after being, vice presidential level at a big company to be a pastor, and then to push a broom. Wow, that's progress. That's advancement. But, all that stuff is so trivial, it's so meaningless, and I think if we all live in that way, which is the faith of Abraham, then gradually the light, the lucidity says, I got to let go of this. I got to let go of that. To God's credit, lest any man boast, He's going to show us the pathway that He wants us to be on. So, back to your question of what do we do next? Put Isaac on the altar, just like we did yesterday, just like we did 6 months ago, just like Charlie did. Do our best. Was he full of awesome wisdom in some respects? Yes. In other respects, he was still a baby. He was 31, and yet God kind of let that light shine through the crack to where he could articulate something very few people could articulate. And that was enough to get him killed. He wouldn't have got killed for being a politician. Right? So what do? You don't have to, back to the tree of knowledge, you don't have to judge how good or how bad he was. I don't care. Starbucks or at a Utah community college or what, I don't care. What I want to know is, what do any of us do when crisis comes, when issues face us, when challenges come, when you got to give up a world championship Ironman event in Hawaii to go, stand in a pulpit in front of 70 people. Is that a hard choice or an easy choice? Well, if you're not connected to the world, you don't love the world and the things of the world, it doesn't make it easy, But if it's obvious, it's obvious because my life doesn't belong to me. So, that's the process of Isaac on the altar every day of our life. And then we know what to do when the time comes. Like sons of Issachar, we know what we got to do next if it's all on the altar. And other than that, there isn't anywhere to know. You're just going to fake it. There's a lot going on that Jesus is very unhappy with. And it's because we've hidden behind the system as a people, collectively. It's like Moses said, we've let you down, God. That's collectively, we've let God down. That's not blaming anybody else. That's just saying, God, please be patient with us. Please have us. Take us. Please have us. And that's what's next. Isaac, and then identifying with everybody around us instead of separating. That's the unity, is we are a problem, oh Lord. We are a problem. That's unity. Not la 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 la. So we'll know what to do. We did last time. We will next time. And that might be tomorrow. It might be tonight. Let's go.
Did somebody send out the lyrics in your circle of text messages to Mighty Fortress last night? You can sing it? I'll send it to some other cities too, and they can sing it with us without knowing they were. Ding, 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 ding.
Right. I think we've all gone now.
A mighty fortress is our God, of a work never failing. Our shelter He amid the flood of mortal ills prevailing. For still our ancient foes doth seek to work us woe. His craft and power are great, and armed with cruel hate. On earth is not his equal. Did we in our own strength confide, our striving would be losing. Were not the right man on our side, the man of God's own choosing. Dost ask who that may be? Christ Jesus it is He. Lord Sabaoth His name. From age to age the same. And He must win the battle. And though this world with devils filled should threaten to undo us, we will not fear, for God hath willed His truth to triumph through us. The Prince of Darkness grim, we tremble not for Him. His rage we can endure, for lo, His doom is sure. One little word shall fail Him. That word above all earthly powers, no thanks to them abideth. The Spirit and the gifts are ours, through Him who with us sideth. Let goods and kindred go, this mortal life also. The body they may kill, God's truth abideth still. His kingdom is forever. keep those words and sing them, read them from time to time. Because that ain't just a song, right? That was an experience. The guy experienced the hatred and death wish of the Roman Empire and the Roman Catholic Empire and the religion and the fear of men and the superstition of men and the curse and the stench of death and a plague and, you know, every conceivable kind of issue. He was I'll say he's no saint. That's not exactly right, he was, but you get the idea. You know, guy's a jerk in some respects. If you knew him, everybody in this room is a nicer guy than Martin Luther was, or gal. That's not the topic here. That's the wrong tree, if that's how you want to judge things. He changed your life. He changed my life. And I don't have to look at a work in progress like him or you or me or any of us and, you know, cry foul, right? That's the wrong tree. What I really need to see through into the tree of life is, where did he turn? Who hated him? Oh, there's a good one. Who hates you? Who hated him? Well, you know a man's character and his trajectory by who chooses to hate him. Armed with cruel hate. Okay, let's look for that. Let's look for cruel hate. We find a little cruel hate, we know right side, wrong side, right? Satan doesn't waste his time on his own friends, his own puppets, his own sock puppets. You know, he puts all of his energy into those that are exposing him for the fraud that he is, right? Now, don't be too quick to jump the gun even on that one, because people are fragile, humans are insecure, humans make mistakes, humans are indoctrinated and bred to fear and demand please, and, you know, don't be too quick to judge any of that stuff. That's not our place. Our place is to invite people to the party and make sure that they know they've got to have the wedding clothes and the oil to get in. That's not a judgment. That's the word of the master. If they don't want this man to be king over them, got it, that's fine. Bless you, child. Go for it. Maybe you'll see differently later. I'm okay. You want to be an atheist? Fine. But one of these days you're going to realize that your Redeemer lives. You were born for such a time as this, and you're going to regret everything you said. You know, some said it thunder, but this is the voice of God. And you'll remember this conversation for the rest of your life, and hopefully you'll bow your knee long before that. And so that's the worst case scenario. That's part of the invitation, the worst case scenario. You don't have to start taking everything personal and reacting and having your feelings hurt, being angry, and that's not fair. You know, blah, 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 blah. Grow up. You know, Isaac climbed on the altar himself. He was probably 25, right? Volunteer. You don't have to fuss and fume and defend, and, you know, that's just not our place. This present age, there are no maverick molecules and no rebellious atoms. As our dear retired senator said, you know, this world is his. It's not my home, but it's a temporary holding place until we meet him face to face. That last enemy is death itself. Death, where's your victory? If you're not afraid of death, you're not afraid of anybody on all that. That's the right place to be. We love not our life to the point of death. Because of the blood of the Lamb, we've been clothed with Christ, and this world is not our home. We're just a passing through. Isn't that how that song goes? Expert on all hymns, hymns. thanks as usual for your hospitality. I honestly did not know if I was going to see you again, and I say the same this time. But glad I got a chance to exchange a hug or two, and 10 or 1,000 the past couple of days, and probably head out tomorrow and maybe see you again in this place, maybe somewhere else, but see you again.
Love you.
So long.
Very thankful.
Now the Ferris Bueller line. Go home.
You're still there? Well, we'll go home.